My husband's girl best friend asked me for a favor, then had her family humiliate me by trying to convince my husband to leave me for her. I decided I was done being the bigger person and drove her clinically insane. I walked into Claire's studio to model for her amateur photo shoot, something she had begged me to do, and that's when the comments started. Her parents saw my husband and immediately greeted him as their son-in-law. At first I thought it was some joke, so I laughed nervously expecting Ethan to clear things up. But when I looked at him, his face stayed unreadable. He offered nothing except a polite smile. Her mom reached out, squeezed Ethan's arm and said, "It's so good to see you again. We always thought Claire would end up with you." My heart dropped when she added, "Life takes its detours, I guess. Claire always imagined walking down the aisle with you." She glanced at me briefly, forced a smile, and then said, "It's sweet of her to fill in though." Claire stood behind her parents, the corners of her mouth turned up in a smug smirk. Ethan just kept clearing his throat repeatedly, but he didn't stand up for me. He didn't tell them it was inappropriate or even defend our marriage. I stood there awkwardly, forcing myself to smile as the photo shoot began, but the comments didn't stop. Claire's dad made remarks about what great kids Ethan and Claire could have had, and her mom complimented me sarcastically, saying things like, "Well, you're brave to step into Claire's shoes." I felt sick to my stomach, but I bit my tongue, hoping Ethan would eventually speak up. He never did. Finally, halfway through, I couldn't handle it anymore. My voice shook as I quietly told Ethan I wanted to leave. Claire's mom overheard and loudly said, "Oh, did I say something wrong?" as if she didn't know what she was doing. Ethan muttered a quick goodbye to Claire, who barely waved back, her eyes gleaming. On the drive home, Ethan said only one word: weird. He didn't apologize, didn't acknowledge how humiliated I felt, and didn't promise to talk to Claire. The silence in the car felt suffocating. I kept waiting for him to realize how wrong it was, but he never did. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, replaying the evening in my mind. Eventually, out of frustration and anxiety, I started scrolling through Claire's old social media posts, trying to make sense of everything. That's when I saw it, a chilling pattern that went back years. Photos from parties, weddings, birthdays, all events Ethan and I had attended together, but Claire cropped me out every time, leaving Ethan smiling by himself. She added captions like, "True love always finds its way, and patience pays off," as if waiting for Ethan to finally notice her. But instead of confronting Ethan directly, I decided I was done playing into Claire's game. I'd always been the bigger person, not anymore. I wouldn't argue or give her the satisfaction of reacting. From now on, Claire wouldn't get any emotion or attention from me at all. A few weeks later, Ethan got another invite to Claire's family's annual summer barbecue. Normally, I'd stay home, but this time, I decided to go with him. When we arrived, Claire looked visibly startled but quickly masked it with her usual fake smile. I acted perfectly normal, warmly greeting everyone except Claire. She said hello, and I simply turned to talk to someone else, pretending she wasn't there. At dinner, her mom started in again, calling Ethan their son-in-law, with a knowing smile. I didn't respond, didn't even look up, and calmly started a conversation about work with someone else at the table. Claire sat directly across from me, and I felt her eyes burning into me, waiting for a reaction I refused to give. Throughout the evening, every time Claire tried to speak directly to me, I either smoothly redirected my attention to another person or calmly stepped away. When she asked me something about Ethan, I just walked past her. I acted like she didn't even exist. Slowly, her frustration became obvious. Eventually, she cornered Ethan, desperate for attention. But by now, Ethan had noticed my cold demeanor toward her and seemed to finally see the discomfort she'd been causing me. Without my reactions masking the situation, her clinginess became obvious even to him. He gently but firmly distanced himself, telling her quietly, "Maybe we should catch up another time." Claire's face fell instantly. Realizing she'd lost Ethan's attention, she turned sharply to me. "Is something wrong? You've been ignoring me all night." But I just walked right past her, not even saying a word. As far as I was concerned, she wasn't even in my breathing space. And then, right as I saw her getting angrier than ever, I grabbed Ethan and passionately kissed him in front of everyone. He kissed me back, and when we were done, I looked around to see Claire and her parents in shock. Her mom was shaking, her dad had an angry smirk, and Claire had tears welling in her eyes. Ethan and I left shortly after, and when we did, I knew there was only one thing left to do: get Claire out of our lives forever. The next morning, I woke up determined to have a real conversation with Ethan. He was already in the kitchen making coffee when I came downstairs. I took a deep breath and jumped right in. "We need to talk about Claire," I said, accepting the mug he handed me. Ethan sighed. "Yeah, I guess we do." I told him everything. How I'd noticed Claire cropping me out of photos, the way her parents treated him like their son-in-law, how uncomfortable the whole situation made me feel. I showed him the social media posts I'd found, scrolling through dozens of examples on my phone. "This isn't normal, Ethan. She's been creating this fantasy where you two are together, and her parents are in on it." Ethan looked genuinely shocked as he scrolled through the posts. "I had no idea," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I mean, we were never even together in college. We were just friends." "Did you ever give her the impression you wanted more?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "No, absolutely not," he insisted. "We hung out in groups mostly. I think we had coffee alone maybe twice to study for exams." He looked up from my phone, his expression troubled. I can't believe I didn't notice how weird she was being at the photo shoot, or all these years really. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. He hadn't been ignoring the situation. He genuinely hadn't seen it. Men can be so oblivious sometimes. "I'll talk to her," he promised. "Tell her to back off." I shook my head. "No, I don't think that's a good idea. She might twist your words or use it as an excuse to keep contacting you. I think we need to just cut her off completely." Ethan agreed, and we spent the morning blocking Claire on all our social media accounts. It felt good, like we were taking back control, but Claire wasn't going to let go that easily. 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won, but you don't know anything about Ethan and me. Ask him about spring break 2015. I stared at my phone, my heart racing. Was she bluffing? Ethan and I had met in late 2015, so this would have been before us, but he'd never mentioned anything significant happening with Claire. I decided not to respond to the text. Engaging would only encourage her, but I couldn't help wondering what she meant. That night, I casually asked Ethan about his spring break in 2015. Not much to tell, he said, looking up from his laptop. I went to Florida with some friends. It rained most of the time, so we just hung out in bars. Was Claire there? I asked, trying to sound casual. Ethan frowned. Yeah, she was part of the group. Why? Just curious, I said, relief washing over me. Nothing had happened. Claire was just trying to get in my head. The next day, a package arrived at our door. No return address. Inside was a photo album. My hands trembled as I opened it. Every page contained photos of Ethan and Claire together, at parties, on the beach, at restaurants. Some looked recent, digitally altered to remove me. Others were from their college days, innocent group shots made to look intimate by the way they were cropped and arranged. The last page had a handwritten note. He'll always wonder what could have been. I'm just helping him remember. I felt sick. This wasn't just a crush or a misunderstanding. This was obsession. I closed the album and shoved it under our bed, not wanting Ethan to see it. Maybe ignoring Claire wasn't enough. Maybe we needed to be more direct. Before I could decide what to do, my phone pinged with another text from the unknown number. Did you like my gift? There's more where that came from. Ethan deserves someone who's known him longer than you have. I blocked the number immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. This was getting out of hand. That weekend, Ethan and I went to a local farmer's market, trying to enjoy a normal Saturday. As we browsed through stalls of fresh produce and handmade crafts, I spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. Claire was there, pretending to shop while keeping an eye on us. When she saw me notice her, she didn't even try to hide. She just smiled and waved like we were old friends. Ethan, I whispered, nudging him. Claire is here. He looked up, his expression darkening when he spotted her. Let's go, he said, taking my hand firmly. As we walked toward the exit, Claire intercepted us, appearing suddenly in our path. What a coincidence, she exclaimed, as if she hadn't clearly followed us there. I was just thinking about you guys. I started to walk around her, but she stepped directly in front of me. You know, blocking me online. Was really childish, she said, her voice low. We're all adults here. Ethan stepped forward. Claire, this needs to stop. We don't want any contact with you. Claire's face hardened for a second before she forced a laugh. Oh, come on, Ethan. We've been friends for years. Are you really going to throw that away because your wife is insecure? I felt my temper rising but forced myself to stay calm. We're leaving now, I said, my voice steady. Don't contact us again. As we walked away, Claire called after us. Ask him about New Year's Eve 2016, sweetie, the night before he proposed to you. I faltered for a second but kept walking. Ethan squeezed my hand. She's making stuff up, he said firmly. I was with my brother on New Year's Eve. You can ask him. I nodded, believing him. Claire was clearly willing to say anything to cause problems between us. The next week was quiet. Too quiet. I kept expecting more texts or packages, but nothing came. I started to relax, thinking maybe Claire had finally gotten the message. Then I got a call from my boss, Alice. Is everything okay with you and Ethan? She asked, concern evident in her voice. Yes. Why? I replied, confused. I got a strange email from someone claiming to be an old friend of his. She said she was worried about you, that Ethan had a history of, well, being unfaithful. She wanted to warn me so I could support you through this difficult time. My blood ran cold. That's completely false, I said, my voice shaking with anger. Her name is Claire, right? Alice confirmed it was. I thought it was weird. I've met Ethan several times and he seems devoted to you. He is, I assured her. Claire is, she has issues. She's been harassing us. I'm so sorry she dragged you into this. After hanging up, I called Ethan at work. He was as shocked and angry as I was. She's escalating, he said grimly. This isn't just annoying anymore. She's trying to damage our reputations. That evening, we sat down to figure out a plan. We needed to document everything Claire had done. The texts, the package, the farmer's market confrontation, the email to my boss. If things got worse, we might need a restraining order. As we were talking, Ethan's phone rang. It was his mother. Ethan, why didn't you tell me? She demanded as soon as he answered. Tell you what, Mom? He asked, putting the phone on speaker. That you and your wife are having problems. This lovely girl Claire just called me. So concerned about both of you. She said you've been fighting constantly and might be separating. Ethan closed his eyes, his jaw clenching. Mom, that's completely false. Claire is not my friend. She's been harassing us, and now she's trying to cause trouble with our families. His mother sounded confused. But she knew so many details about you. She said she was your college girlfriend. She was never my girlfriend, Ethan said firmly. She's making things up. Please don't listen to anything she says. After reassuring his mother, Ethan hung up and looked at me, his expression grim. This is getting serious. She's contacting our families, our employers. What's next? I didn't have to wait long to find out. The next day, I came home from work to find our front door slightly ajar. My heart pounding, I cautiously pushed it open. Nothing seemed disturbed in the living room or kitchen. But when I went upstairs to our bedroom, I stopped cold. On our bed were dozens of printed photos, all of Ethan and Claire, clearly photoshopped to make them look like a couple. Some were so well done it was hard to tell they were fake. Scattered among them were printouts of fake text conversations, making it look like Ethan had been secretly communicating with Claire for years. I knew they were fake. The Ethan in these texts didn't even sound like my husband, but seeing them still made me feel sick. The level of obsession required to create all this was terrifying. I called Ethan immediately, my voice shaking as I told him what I'd found. He left work early and came straight home. When he saw the photos and fake texts, his face went pale. We need to call the police, he said, pulling out his phone. The officer who responded took our statement and collected the materials as evidence. He seemed sympathetic but warned us that without direct threats, there wasn't much they could do yet. He suggested we install security cameras and document any further contact from Claire. That night, neither of us slept well. I kept imagining Claire in our house, touching our things, laying out those photos on our bed. The violation made my skin crawl. The next morning, I called a security company. They installed cameras covering our front and back doors, plus our driveway. It wasn't cheap, but the peace of mind was worth it. A week passed with no contact from Claire. I started to hope that maybe the police visit had scared her off. Then Ethan got a call from his boss, asking him to come in for an unscheduled meeting. When he returned home that afternoon, his expression was thunderous. Claire sent an anonymous email to the entire executive team, he explained, pacing our living room. It had a bunch of photoshopped pictures of us together, claiming we've been having an affair for years. She made it look like I've been using company trips to meet up with her. My stomach dropped. What did your boss say? Fortunately, he knows me well enough to be suspicious, and the Photoshop job wasn't that great when you look closely, but it was still humiliating having to explain everything. I hugged him tightly. I'm so sorry. This is getting out of control. Ethan pulled back, his expression serious. There's more. HR is investigating because they have to, but my boss showed me something else. Claire applied for a job at my company last week, in my department. The implications hit me like a truck. She was trying to insert herself into every aspect of our lives. She's not going to stop, is she? Ethan shook his head. I don't think so. Not on her own. We decided it was time to be more proactive. The next day, we met with a lawyer who specialized in harassment cases. She listened to our story, reviewed our evidence, and agreed we had grounds for a restraining order. But that's just a piece of paper, she warned us. It won't physically stop her from contacting you. What it does is give the police clear grounds to act if she violates it. We started the paperwork that day. It felt good to be taking concrete action instead of just reacting to Claire's increasingly disturbing behavior. While we waited for the restraining order to be processed, I decided to do some research of my own. Claire had mentioned specific dates several times. Spring break 2015, New Year's Eve 2016. Ethan had denied anything happened, and I believed him. But Claire's confidence made me wonder if there was some grain of truth she was twisting. I reached out to Vincent, one of Ethan's college friends who had been part of their friend group. We met for coffee, and I explained the situation. Vincent looked troubled. Claire always had a thing for Ethan, but he never reciprocated. We all knew it, but no one talked about it because it was awkward. What about spring break 2015? I asked. She specifically mentioned that. Vincent thought for a moment. Yeah, we all went to Panama City. Claire got really hammered one night and tried to kiss Ethan, but he turned her down. She was embarrassed the next day, claimed not to remember it. We all just pretended it never happened. And New Year's Eve 2016? I pressed. Vincent shook his head. Ethan wasn't even with us that night. He went to visit his brother in Chicago. Claire was at our party, though. She spent the whole night talking about how Ethan was going to realize they were meant to be together. He looked at me apologetically. We thought she was just hammered and dramatic. None of us realized how serious her obsession was. I felt relieved. Ethan had been telling the truth. Claire was twisting minor incidents into something they weren't. Armed with this new information, I felt more confident. Claire's narrative was built on lies and delusions. The truth was on our side. The restraining order was granted the following week. Claire was legally prohibited from contacting us, coming within 100 feet of us, or posting about us on social media. We sent a copy to her parents as well, hoping they would finally realize how serious the situation was. For a few days, everything was quiet. Then I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. You think a piece of paper will keep me away from Ethan? Claire's voice was cold, controlled. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I hung up immediately and called our lawyer, who advised us to report the violation to the police. An officer came by to take our statement, and we played him the voicemail Claire had left. The officer seemed more concerned now. This is a clear violation of the restraining order, he said. We'll pay her a visit, make sure she understands the consequences of continuing this behavior. I hoped that would be the end of it. But Claire had one more card to play. The next evening, Ethan and I were making dinner when our doorbell rang. Through the security camera, we could see it was Claire's parents. They looked upset. Should we answer? I asked Ethan. He hesitated, then nodded. Let's hear what they have to say. Maybe they're finally seeing the truth. We opened the door but didn't invite them in. Claire's dad looked uncomfortable, her mom tearful. We need to talk to you about Claire, her dad said gruffly. She's not well. We know, Ethan replied, his voice firm but not unkind. That's why we had to get the restraining order. Claire's mom wiped her eyes. We didn't want to believe it. Claire always talked about you two as if you were together, or meant to be together. We thought you were leading her on, then chose someone else. She looked at me apologetically. We didn't realize she was creating this whole fantasy. How did you finally figure it out? I asked, still wary of their sudden change of heart. Claire's dad sighed heavily. We found her room. She has a wall covered with photos of Ethan, timelines of your relationship, plans for how to break you up. He looked genuinely disturbed. It's like something from a movie. We had no idea she was this fixated. We're getting her help, Claire's mom added. She's agreed to see a therapist. We just wanted you to know we understand now, and we're sorry for our part in all this. I felt a mix of emotions, relief that they finally believed us, anger that it had taken this long, sadness for what Claire must be going through. Mental health issues weren't something to take lightly. Thank you for telling us, Ethan said. We hope Claire gets the help she needs. After they left, Ethan and I sat in silence for a while, processing everything. The nightmare seemed to be ending, not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a quiet acknowledgement of illness and the promise of treatment. Do you think she'll really get help? I asked Ethan as we finished making dinner. He shrugged. I hope so, for everyone's sake. 2 weeks later, we received a letter from Claire's therapist, confirming that she was in treatment and understood the restraining order would remain in effect. The therapist assured us that part of Claire's treatment involved establishing appropriate boundaries and recognizing the difference between fantasy and reality. It wasn't a perfect ending. Claire's obsession had caused real damage to our sense of security and peace of mind. The memory of those photoshopped pictures on our bed still made me uneasy, but knowing she was getting professional help gave me hope that the worst was behind us. Ethan and I decided to take a weekend trip to a nearby beach town, just to get away from everything and reconnect. As we walked along the shore, hand in hand, I felt the tension of the past months finally starting to fade. I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening sooner, Ethan said, stopping to face me. I should have shut it down the first time her parents said that weird son-in-law stuff. I squeezed his hand. You didn't see it because you weren't looking for it. You thought she was just a friend. He nodded, looking out at the ocean. I've been thinking a lot about boundaries lately, how important they are, even with old friends. Me too, I agreed. And about trust. I'm glad I trusted you, even when Claire was trying to make me doubt everything. Ethan pulled me into a hug. We make a good team, he murmured into my hair. Standing there in his arms with the sound of waves crashing nearby, I felt stronger than before. Claire had tried to break us apart, but she'd only succeeded in bringing us closer together. We'd faced her obsession as a united front and come through it with a deeper understanding of each other and our relationship. As we walked back to our hotel, I realized something important. In trying to destroy our marriage, Claire had inadvertently strengthened it. We'd learned to communicate better, to trust each other more deeply, and to stand together against outside threats. Those were lessons we'd carry forward, long after Claire was just an unpleasant memory.